Jeremiah. It's great to be here with you. Thanks for coming out. I'm always pleased when anybody comes out if they find out I'm going to be speaking. So it's a treat. This morning I was in Washington, D.C. and went to a meeting. And I'm so proud. It was an East Texan, General Vernon Lewis from Marshall. He just felt like, since Donald Trump is the nominee, we ought to get a bunch of our best veterans together and make sure he hears from us. And he pulled it off. And as Vernon was saying this morning, the best way to pull something like that off is to be willing to pay for it to happen. And so he literally put his money where his mouth is. And by the way, talking about the law, I was told a young boy asked his grandfather for $20 to go to the grocery store, and his grandfather said, "Son, when I was your age, I got $1 from my mama, and I would go to the store and I would come home with 2 loaves of bread, 2 gallons of milk, pound of bacon, carton of eggs, and other stuff, but you just can't do that anymore. They got too many security cameras around now to do that." Anyway. So times have changed, and there are cameras everywhere anymore. But Vernon Lewis, he said, "Hey, you were in the Army 4 years active duty, you ought to come too." And I was invited, and I looked around that room, incredible American patriots. We had one 4-star general from World War II. He'd served in numerous wars. But General Crozer, I think he had 4 Purple Hearts and all kinds of people there, Bronze Stars, Distinguished Crosses. I mean, just incredible heroes across this room. I think there were 120 there. Like me, Tony Perkins did not retire from the military, but he served. In fact, he was in the Marines. We had one fellow there that was a chaplain and got forced out of the Army after he refused to remove Bible verses from where he worked. There were another fellow that was chaplain there that was chastised for praying in a way that he was told not to. I mean, it was just an incredible group. And it was pretty much picked out by Vernon Lewis because he wanted to make sure the Republican nominee heard from people that know and care deeply about our country and about our military. And I was invited to come back and talk to Donald Trump beforehand. I had some questions I wanted answered. I had been encouraged to come out and endorse him, but I had some questions that I needed answered. But before I go into what we said, I just want to touch on a few issues that I was asked to mention. First of all, unfortunately, most of you have heard the 2 initials put together, CR. Haven't you? Most of you. Means continuing resolution.
Oh, God.
And we've been passing a lot of CRs since I've been in Congress. And the main reason we've been passing continuing resolutions is because the Senate has not been willing and able to pass appropriations bills for the 12 appropriations that are supposed to be passed each year. Now, I am one of those who favor having a 2-year, like Texas does. Get Jay over here. I think it would be better if the federal government had a 2-year appropriation, because the way it is now, the House passes appropriations bills, the Senate doesn't get around to them, we get crushed at the end of the year. Well, there's no choice but to just do a continuing resolution that just resolves that we're going to keep spending at the current level with what nobody says, because it's already in law. It doesn't say with the automatic increases. It just says we'll keep spending at the same level. But the law is already in place for years that there is a formula that calculates and dictates how much the automatic increase is every year. And Rush Limbaugh talked about in the 1990s how insane it was after we got the majority back as Republicans, and yet we did not end the automatic increase. So every time any conservative said we need to slow the rate of growth, they were vilified for wanting to have draconian cuts. And the only way you can ever eliminate being accused of wanting draconian cuts for slowing the rate of growth is to end the automatic increase. And so then, if there's an increase, it's a real increase. And if there is staying the same, it's really staying the same. And if there's a cut, it is an actual cut. You're not just slowing the rate of growth. And it's been amazing to me that we still have not eliminated the automatic increase. And apparently there are Republicans, especially in the Senate, kind of like that automatic increase every year in the budget. So when we do a continuing resolution that says we're going to keep spending at the current levels, understand that means with the automatic increase. And as I've been saying ever since I got there, before I got there, we need to end the automatic increase. And to do that, what you would have is what would be called a zero baseline budget. And, you know, for some of us, a zero baseline means you start at zero, the number zero, and then you have to justify every year anything you get. But in government speak, a zero baseline means it's a zero increase in the baseline. And so a zero baseline budget would mean it's the exact amount you got the year before with zero increase in the baseline. And so ever since I got there, I was pushing to end the automatic increase. And 3 Congresses ago, I got Boehner to agree to bring a zero baseline budget to the floor for a vote. And I think he thought this was his out, that it wouldn't happen. He said, but only if Paul Ryan brings it out of the Budget Committee, meaning if they get a vote on it and the Budget Committee and the committee votes to send it to the floor. And he didn't know when he promised me that Paul Ryan had already told me, yeah, you know, I support your zero baseline budget. I've been a co-sponsor every year. And he said, and we're going to vote it out of committee. And Boehner didn't know he had already promised me that when he said, well, only if Ryan, well, I said, you know, maybe he doesn't, but I knew he had already said he would. But anyway, I didn't lie. I just, you know, maybe he did, maybe. But anyway, so Paul voted it got his committee to vote it out, and it came to the floor. Oh, the other thing, and I've done this numerous times, when Boehner was Speaker, if I had a good bill that I needed to get passed for the good of the country, then I would find somebody that was on the committee of jurisdiction and get them, explain to them what it is, and generally they go, wow, that's a really good idea. I said, it's my idea, but why don't you be the original sponsor? It'd have to come out of your subcommittee. And well, really? You don't want to be? No, I'd like for you to be the lead sponsor. And years ago, I heard a state representative taking credit for something that I knew from behind the scenes that Bill Ratliff had gotten pushed through. And I heard the state rep taking all the credit. And when I saw Senator Ratliff later, I said, that was interesting hearing a state rep take all the credit when, as I understood, actually you were the guy not only pushed it through the Senate, but pushed it through the House. And he said, well, as is said in Austin and Washington, it's amazing what you can get done if you don't care who gets the credit. And there's a lot to that. And so anyway, Paul talked Rob Woodall, who was at that time new guy from Georgia,